And action!
She fell from the sky, swaddled in strips of white, a neon-haired enigma with the power to save the world. In that instant, the Fifth Element's Lilu, played by 19-year-old Milla Jovovich, crash-landed not just into Corbin's taxi but into our cultural imagination. Here was a sci-fi heroine who was equal parts innocent and lethal, clad in a bandaged outfit so daring it would launch thousands of cosplay tributes and even inspire haute couture designers in the years that followed. With tangerine hair blazing and wide amber eyes absorbing the wonders and horrors of 23rd century Earth, Lilu became an instant beauty icon. 2 decades later, her influence still glows. You see it in fashion runways, Comic-Con halls, and every Halloween party graced by a makeshift thermal bandage costume. Lilu's look hit a primal nerve, a perfect fusion of purity and sensuality, and we're still under its spell. And yes, I'll show you how to pick up a bit of that for yourself by the end of this video. Practical beauty tips and all. Multipass! Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line. Lilu's unforgettable allure comes from contrasts. She's childlike yet very sexy, vulnerable yet badass. Essentially a born goddess with an otherworldly look to match. Picture an ethereal angel in sci-fi lingerie who can knock out brutes with a single roundhouse kick. That paradox, innocence on the verge of explosion, is the secret sauce that makes her so intoxicating. That and some Chanel makeup under the orange hair. But if you'd like a bit more explanation, follow me. In the next 20 minutes, we'll break down exactly how Milla Jovovich pulled off this feat, and how you can steal a page from it too. So settle in, maybe grab a frosty virgin cocktail, bright orange, of course, and maybe a little chicken too. And let's start by meeting the human behind Lilu. Who was Milla Jovovich before she became our orange-haired perfect being? Born in 1975 in Soviet-era Kiev, that is now Ukraine, to a Russian actress mother and Serbian doctor father, Milika Bogdanovna Jovovich emigrated as a child to Los Angeles, where her extreme looks quickly landed her a child modeling career. By age 11, she was on Italian magazine covers. By 12, legendary photographer Herb Ritz was shooting her for Lay, and Richard Avedon had already dubbed her one of Revlon's most unforgettable women. In the early 90s, Hollywood came calling. At just 15, Milla scored a lead role in Return to the Blue Lagoon, controversially stepping into Brooke Shields' old shoes as a shipwrecked nymphet. The ensuing brouhaha over her age and on-screen nudity left the teen disillusioned. After another setback, her part in 1993's Dazed and Confused was largely cut, reduced to a few lines. The discouraged Milla semi-retired from acting before she was even 18. Instead, she poured her creativity into music, recorded a folk rock album at 16, and continued to model. By the mid-1990s, Milla seemed poised to be another bright young star who faded away early. Little did she know her destiny was simply biding its time, waiting for the right role to ignite. That role was Lilu, but landing it wasn't straightforward. In fact, Milla lost the part. Luc Besson, the film's director, had auditioned scores of actresses, and at one point even cast another. The rumor mill says it was Julia Roberts in the early conception. Milla was just one more hopeful who didn't make the cut. Yet, she wasn't so easily deterred. A few months after her rejection, chance placed Luc Besson and Milla Jovovich at the same Los Angeles hotel. The Chateau Marmont, naturally, and the 19-year-old seized the moment. She approached the director, reasserted her passion for the project, and whatever she said or did, it worked. She won him over. With the role now hers, Milla threw herself into an 8-month boot camp to prepare. This was no mere cosmetic part. She knew Lilu would require full physical and mental transformation. Milla trained rigorously in stunts and martial arts, and even undertook the daunting task of learning an entire fictional language. Yes, the alien divine language that Lilu speaks, an unintelligible babble of 400 words, was real, at least to Luc Besson, and he handed Milla a dictionary he'd devised for it. The two would write letters back and forth in this strange tongue to build her fluency. I don't want to take any credit. Luke had a whole language figured out, Mila recalls. By exchange of letters and constant practice, she made it her own. Can she still speak it today? No, but I can still say my name, she laughs. It's hard to overstate how much The Fifth Element demanded of this young actress. In fact, to translate Lilu's inhuman innocence, Mila resorted to an almost ridiculous exercise. She and an acting coach spent days at the zoo. I'll explain that bizarre detail soon. It's a testament to how far Mila went to leave herself at the door and truly become Lilu. But first, back to 1996. Production is ramping up and our actress has transformed, physically, mentally, linguistically, into the supreme being. All she needs now is the right look. How do you create a face and body that instantly telegraphs perfection, purity, and power? Enter the enfant terrible of fashion.
Jean-Paul Gaultier. Jean-Paul Gaultier is a sweet angel.
Well, Luc Besson had always envisioned The Fifth Element as a visually extravagant comic book come to life. A far cry from the dreary, rain-soaked futurism of films like Blade Runner. To realize this, he gave Gaultier unprecedented freedom to outfit the 23rd century. It was a match made in heaven, or perhaps in Fhloston paradise. Gaultier ultimately designed over 1,000 costumes for the film's universe, lavishing attention even on extras in the background. For Lilu, however, they started almost from scratch. In fact, the most famous outfit of all, those white bandages, was something of a last-minute brainstorm. How do you dress a character who is essentially a woman born in a lab? Originally, the script had Lilu reconstructed nude, but of course she couldn't remain naked the whole film. Mila and Luc Besson had mused over this problem from the start. She gets put together through this DNA slicing machine and she's naked, Mila noted. But she can't be naked throughout the movie, so what do we do? The solution struck when they considered hospital gowns, the kind that leave your back exposed for tubes and injections. Functional modesty was the key. That's where the bandage idea came from. What if, instead of clothing, Lilu wore strategically placed medical bandages, just enough to cover the necessary bits, while keeping her accessible for all those sci-fi injections?
I said, listen, what about bandages? And Jean-Paul was just like, oh, genius, I love it. Which, of course, ended up being like this iconic costume.
And within days, he had crafted the iconic white strap ensemble. The result was pure visual ecstasy. Lilu's bandage bodysuit instantly conveys both vulnerability and a kind of daring, futuristic sensuality. Gaultier chose white for a reason, to signify Lilu's purity, perfection, and sublimity. Against the film's grungy cityscape, her alabaster wraps glow almost angelically. The strips of fabric cling to Lilu's form, celebrating her slim, athletic figure. In those first scenes, she is as much a symbol as a person. The filmmakers wanted us to feel that she's beyond ordinary humanity, a being of superior purity, but also one in need of care and protection. Hence the bandages. It worked. The moment Mila stepped on set in full costume for the first time, the crew fell silent. Jaws dropped, eyes wide. Over 200 people around you, and everything is deathly quiet, she remembers of that unveiling. They knew, as we do now, that cinema history had just been made, with but one strip of stretchy fabric. Yet, for all its artistic merit, let's be blunt, the bandage outfit is also smoking hot. It's arguably one of the most daring, instantly recognizable, barely there costumes ever put on a mainstream movie star. Jovovich was no stranger to skimpy attire, but even she blushed at first. It was a bit embarrassing, she admitted, recalling how the mainly British crew on set couldn't help but let out whistles at her nearly nude form. In the world of high fashion, where Mila had spent years, most of the guys are gay and they have the etiquette not to notice a half-dressed girl, she said. But those English guys working on the set were whistling and stuff. Still, she soldiered through the catcalls and performed intense fight scenes with no padding, literally, because where could you hide knee pads in that outfit? But being 19 and fearless, she just really got into the character. After a memorable first act in The Thermal Bandages, 16 minutes of screen time as fashion buffs like to count, Lilu upgrades her wardrobe. Post-shower, she appears in what might be called techno-chic, an outfit that manages to be adorably quirky and unabashedly sexy at once. Gaultier's design for this look combined everyday fabrics with cartoonish futurism. A cropped, ribbed white t-shirt, skin-tight golden pants with black trim, chunky combat boots, and most noticeably the pair of bright orange braces crisscrossing her torso. Those rubber straps with cut-out holes are like a playful hybrid of a harness and overalls, as if some 23rd century club kid repurposed industrial gear into fashion. They match Lilu's hair exactly and instantly become her signature accent. In this second phase of the film, Lilu has assumed her role as humanity's protector, and the costume reflects it. Gaultier said he wanted her to look athletic, heroic, yet still sensitive. The body-hugging cut of her outfit highlights Mila's toned form, giving her an almost comic book superhero silhouette. And the dominant color? Orange, orange, orange. From her multi-strapped suspenders to even Bruce Willis's character's tank top, the film practically screams orange. And that's no accident. There's always a dominant color in my films, Luc Besson has noted. The Professional was brown, The Fifth Element was orange. He chose orange to symbolize life, energy, and warmth in a futuristic world. So if you ever wondered why even the McDonald's workers in this movie sport towering red-orange wigs, now you know. The director was painting his canvas with a very specific palette. And then there's Lilu's hair. We can't talk about her look or her beauty without that shock of bright mandarin locks. Those choppy, shoulder-length neon tresses with blonde roots became arguably as iconic as the costumes. It was Luc's idea that Mila needed to be a redhead. That was not me, Gaultier revealed. Luc Besson wanted a color for Lilu's hair that has never been seen before. They landed on a fluorescent safety orange with pale yellow roots. Almost like the color road workers wear at night, so you don't hit them with a car. Needless to say, maintaining such a hue was a nightmare. Mila Jovovich's natural hair is brown and grew fast. Within days of a dye job, her dark roots would peek through, requiring constant touch-ups. The film's hairdressers found themselves bleaching and re-dyeing her hair weekly, a harsh process that soon took a toll. My hair started falling out in clumps, Mila admits. The repeated bleaching literally fried it. Partway through filming, they had no choice but to fit her with a wig. Fortunately, a perfect switching point existed in the story. After Lilu's shower scene on Fhloston Paradise, she resurfaces with slightly fluffier, cleaner-looking hair. That's actually the wig debut. Movie magic wins again. The irony is that this painful hair experiment did pay off in spades. Lilu's fiery mane became a lodestar for our eyes. In the drab urban sprawl of futuristic New York, she's literally lit from head to toe. And culturally, that hairdo sparked its own mini-revolution. Bright orange hair had a moment in the late 90s and early 2000s, seen on other fearless heroines like the titular sprinter in Run, Lola Run, and even influencing the early look of TV's Alias. Mila Jovovich herself jokes that it set a trend, noting in a recent chat that her infallible equation of scissors, manic panic, and texturizing spray is experiencing a resurgence among braver fashionistas. So, what is it about Lilu that had us so utterly enthralled? Why did this character, who spends much of the film childlike and scantily clad, ignite such intense attraction and fascination? Part of the answer lies in timeless archetypes. Lilu may be a sci-fi creation, but she is a paradox as old as myth. The innocent femme fatale, the divine yet devastating female, an anima figure, the incarnation of a man's ideal feminine, at once pure and powerful, needing guidance yet possessing secret wisdom. Indeed, Corbin, Bruce Willis, is immediately drawn to Lilu's vulnerability, but he's also in awe of her strength. She triggers a protective instinct, but also a very primal desire. Here is a woman who is explicitly called perfect. A scientist marvels over her perfect body and wants to photograph her nude form moments after she's created. She is literally termed the Supreme Being, a savior sent from the heavens. That's straight-up mythic language. And yet she arrives in our midst as a naive, childlike being who has to learn about humanity from scratch. This combination, divine power in the package of a wide-eyed little girl, taps into a deep well of storytelling tropes. Some have pointed out, fairly, that Lilu exemplifies the born sexy yesterday trope. The idea of a gorgeous woman who has the mind of an innocent, making her non-threatening and endearing, even as she's sexually alluring. Leeloo certainly checks those boxes. She's essentially a super strong baby in a young woman's body. She playfully mispronounces words in cute phonetic bursts, and curiously strips off her clothes in front of Corbin with zero self-consciousness. This unwitting sensuality is key to her charm. She's not trying to seduce anyone. The poor girl doesn't even understand what a kiss is until the finale. It places the male in the role of protector and teacher, the one who gets to introduce her to the ways of the world and love. Psychologically, that dynamic can feel validating to a male ego. He gets to be the experienced guide to a powerful yet uninitiated woman. And then, of course, she famously decides that there's no point in saving humanity until Corbin's love convinces her otherwise. Love, the fifth element, becomes her raison d'être and the force that activates her power. This notion of the feminine as the ultimate savior through love is deeply archetypal too, in everything from the Virgin Mary to Dante's Beatrice. That's heady stuff woven into a popcorn movie. It's no wonder we all felt something beyond just cool character design when we watched her. All that said, you don't need a degree in mythology to appreciate what made Leeloo attractive. She's fun, she's a badass, she's exotically beautiful in a way that was new and exciting. In a summer blockbuster landscape typically dominated by macho men and vixen sidekicks, Leeloo was obviously a breath of fresh air. As Milla Jovovich herself noted, in 1997, no one expected this little orange-haired girl doing all of the crazy stuff to steal the show from Bruce Willis. Back then, it definitely wasn't the done thing for an action film. But steal the show she did. Young women in the audience suddenly had a hero. And young men, well, let's just say many a teenage crush was born that May of 1997. She even followed the odd directions like, don't breathe when you laugh, to make Leeloo's laughter weirdly enchanting. The dedication paid off. We'd never seen anyone like Leeloo before, and arguably since. And about that zoo training, here's the quirky tidbit I promised. To invent Leeloo's body language from scratch, Milla and her acting coach literally went to the zoo to study animals for inspiration. They ruled out ones that didn't fit, nothing slinky like a snake or prowling like a jaguar. And in the end, decided Leeloo's animal spirit was a mix of a baby lion and a bird. Picture a lion cub, playful, a bit clumsy, knocking things over with unsteady strength. Now picture a small bird, head twitching, eyes darting bright with curiosity. Combine those, and you get Leeloo. She tilts her head rapidly, sniffing the air, then barrels forward with wild energy, sometimes stumbling, sometimes pouncing. Rewatch the film with this in mind, and you'll see it. Such behind-the-scenes devotion to detail is part of why the character feels so real and weirdly mesmerizing. Well, now that we've dissected Leeloo's mystique, you might be wondering, can we steal a bit of that for ourselves? Oh, absolutely. While I don't necessarily recommend bandage bodysuits for everyday wear, unless you're feeling supremely confident where you are, there are plenty of nifty takeaways from Leeloo's look. Here's your Leeloo beauty blueprint in practical terms. Start with hair. Leeloo's flaming orange locks are her crown. For that, you have a few options. The most daring is to dye it. Brands like Manic Panic make semi-permanent dyes in neon orange that can give you that traffic-stopping hue. Just remember Mila's cautionary tale. Too often repeated bleaching is beyond harsh. Avoid that. Besides, you can also find affordable Leeloo wigs online. An orange bob, ideally with lighter roots. A wig is zero commitment and instant. And then makeup. Fun fact, Leeloo uses a futuristic Chanel makeup gadget in the film that instantly prints eyeliner on the lids. If only Sephora sold that. In lieu of sci-fi tech, you can recreate her fresh-faced makeup with today's products. The key is a natural, dewy base. Leeloo, being genetically perfect, has smooth, flawless skin. You might want to start with a blurring primer and a light BB cream or foundation for an airbrushed finish. Bobbi Brown's face base is great for that. For eyes, keep it simple. A wash of nude eyeshadow, a good touch of mascara, and maybe a thin swipe of eyeliner if you want a bit of definition. I'll link my favorites in the description in case you're interested. Her Chanel makeup robot gives her a sharp yet smoky cat eye. You too can draw a subtle wing if feeling fancy. Milla's eyebrows were even slightly bleached to avoid harshness against the orange hair. bleached eyebrows in general are all the rage in fashion today, so if you dare, there are eyebrow bleaching kits for that. Not to worry, it is easily reversible if you're not feeling the look. And finish with a lip that's natural. A petal nude lipstick will work best. The idea is to appear like you woke up like this, a supremely confident being who doesn't need heavy pigments. Lilu's beauty is effortless, so less is more. Now, to pull off those minimal outfits, Lilu's skin was in top shape. Achieving great skin is an ongoing process, but you can boost your glow with a few steps. Consider using a gentle exfoliating scrub or a brightening face mask. And since Lilu shows a lot of arms and midriff, you could apply a body lotion with a bit of shimmer. It'll catch the light and accentuate your form in a subtle sci-fi sheen. Also, I personally supplement collagen and omega-3. I suggest you consider the same. And of course, a healthy diet, the most important part. On fashion, you probably aren't going to walk the dog in a bandage, but you can incorporate Lilu-esque elements into a pretty cool outfit. For example, a white tank top paired with orange-red suspenders or harness over it is a real-world friendly homage. There are faux leather harnesses sold online that mimic that strapped look. Or try orange accents in your wardrobe. Lilu's color scheme of white and orange is surprisingly chic. White everything with an orange belt immediately reads as playful. White bandage-style tights under a miniskirt can nod to the thermal bandage aesthetic without being costumey. Finish with chunky black boots, and you've got a look that whispers Lilu to those in the know, while still remaining here on Earth. Finally, stand tall and never slouch. That's sexy. Doing some yoga is good for that. One thing we can all learn from Lilu is that being daringly distinguishable is the ultimate beauty blueprint. Orange hair and all. I'd say let's wind down. Remember, being different is glorious. Whether that difference is fluorescent hair in a crowd of brunettes, or a pure compassionate soul in a world of cynics. So here's to our supreme heroine, a badass angel who remains the ultimate beauty blueprint for all. Big bada boom, indeed.